Standard couples therapy relies on the image of a perfectly balanced scale. The entire clinical model assumes two equal partners, meeting in good faith to resolve mutual issues. Your life at home exists outside this balance. You live with the threat of explosive rage over minor inconveniences and the weight of rules that only exist within your four walls. Yet, in the therapy office, that same person leans back and speaks with the detachment of a neutral observer. He describes communication struggles as if he is narrating someone else's marriage. This composure is a rehearsed performance. He exploits the structure of the session, using his ability to study people for leverage to navigate the clinician's expectations. The clinical format creates a specific risk. In a room built for mutual disclosure, the person who arrived afraid is now being measured against a person who feels no fear at all. Therapy naturally rewards the speaker who remains the most composed. Often, that is the person who was never afraid to begin with. You arrive in a different state. You are shaking and reactive, carrying the physical exhaustion of enduring months or years of constant coercion. A therapist who only sees what happens inside the hour can easily misinterpret these roles. They may read your trauma as instability, while viewing his calculated stillness as maturity. The manipulation continues between appointments. He may call or email the therapist privately, framing his concern for your mental health as an act of caretaking. This private outreach sets the frame before you ever sit down. You believe you are walking into a neutral room, but the stage has already been dressed in your absence. This specific reflex of manipulation is known as DARVO. It stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Defender. Psychologist Jennifer Freyd coined the term at the University of Oregon. Her work describes how an offender denies the behavior and attacks the victim's credibility until the roles are completely flipped. Research from 2017 highlights the internal impact of this tactic. Prolonged exposure to DARVO causes victims to doubt their own perceptions and eventually blame themselves for the harm they suffered. The standard rules of couples therapy effectively launder this dynamic. Serious abuse is filtered through polite, clinical language until it sounds like a shared problem. In this chart, a unilateral action, like surveillance, passes through the clinical filter and emerges as a loop labeled trust issues on both sides. The word both forces a false equivalence. It distributes the weight of the harm onto the victim, regardless of who is actually responsible for the behavior. When abuse is framed as a mutual scheduling conflict, the victim is reclassified as a willing participant in a difficult marriage rather than a person being harmed. The consequences of these sessions often outlast the relationship. When the marriage ends, the controlling partner walks into the parking lot with a new set of tools. He adopts the therapist's professional language, phrases like high conflict dynamic or unresolved anxiety, and carries them into the future. These clinical notes can become the center of a custody battle. In family court, his lawyer can use the therapist's neutral observations to build a case that you are the unstable parent. The very notes you hoped would facilitate your rescue can be turned into the centerpiece of his legal defense. You cannot unsay the truth to a man who is always collecting evidence. You might find yourself softening his behavior or translating his anger for the therapist. This reflex is conditioning, not fairness. Your mind is still trying to manage the threat. Coercive control is a regime of hostage-taking. This systematic stripping of freedom stands apart from typical conflicts two adults meet in the middle to solve. Clinical experts state that joint therapy is contraindicated when coercive control is present. This means the treatment itself is recognized as a hazard that will make the injury worse. Real recovery requires individual care and safety planning in a room where you are not outnumbered. You need a space where the truth costs you nothing to say out loud. If a professional dismisses abuse as a simple disagreement, they are reaching their training's limit. You have the right to walk out and find a room with a higher ceiling.